Okay, and then this agenda looks a little bit um, aggressive here, but it's actually just a listing of some upcoming meetings and public hearings that we think people should have some interest in. Most of these pertain directly to East Norwalk. So we wanted to make sure that everyone had these in their calendar because the notice that got sent by the city on all of these only gave a very short lead time. And for the most part, these were really publicized using social media. And so for folks who aren't that well engaged with social media, unless you're on an email list directly from the city, or you're keeping up with the ENNA emails, you might not even know that some of these meetings are coming up. So I'm going to hop around here. I think I have some of these screens in order. If not, bear with me, and I may have to go out to the city website. So the first thing that we have here is one that's actually coming up tomorrow night. It is an open house kind of workshop for the citywide transportation master plan. And that's going to be held in person at City Hall. So this one is tomorrow, and it is from 6 to 8 p.m. in the community room. I think the way that they're going to handle this is it's a kind of an open house. While we can go into the community room, they'll have a number of storyboards up about what they're looking to do citywide for sidewalks, walkability, biking, transportation, commuting, etc. And I think with this one, there'll be opportunity for you to speak with city staff and also the consultants who have done the transportation master plan. And I believe that's from 6 to 7. And then I think at 7 o'clock, they're doing an actual formal presentation. The screen that you're looking at here is actually just a snap that I took from the city website. So to get the details on this particular meeting, you'll want to go to the city planning site. And just as a reminder, I don't think that's showing up here on the screen, but that website is tomorrow.norwalkct.org. Again, the word tomorrow.norwalkct.org. And you'll be able to get the details on this meeting tomorrow night. And this is not one of these meetings that are hybrid, and I don't believe it's being videotaped. I can check into that, but I don't believe it is. So if you're interested in everything that's going to impact transportation, mobility, and parking throughout the city, you'll want to take advantage of going to this meeting tomorrow night. Okay, and then there's a public hearing. I'm sorry, the agenda actually should read public hearing, but I believe this was in the email that I sent to everyone regarding the citywide cannabis ordinance. And I know we had a number of people who were interested in how that's going to work. So I'll just speak for a brief moment on that. And then again, direct you to the city planning site so that you can read the materials on this. And for the public hearing, that is going to be via Zoom. And you'll want to go on. I don't think you need to pre-register, but you can go on to Zoom. And during the public hearing, you can share your comments, concerns, questions. As most of you know by now, with public hearings, it's not a back and forth dialogue. So you'll really just be addressing the zoning, planning and zoning commission, and hopefully it'll take your comments into account. The screen that I have up here right now in the presentation is the what the city staff is recommending for cannabis or marijuana operations within the city. These are the allowed uses under the state statutes that were approved this year. And I believe in Norwalk, everything is online, by the way, but I believe in Norwalk, we are allowed to have up to 3 retail operations throughout the city. And I don't think that's changed, but again, you can go online and take a look at this under the planning and zoning site. The one that I wanted you to pay attention to is this last column here where it says I-1 and I-2. Those are the industrial zones in the city. And with the recent changes to industrial zoning, most of you will recall that East Norwalk's industrial zones now all fall under the designation of Industrial 2. Those areas are basically the industrial zone that runs along the railroad tracks in East Norwalk, kind of Fort Point, Fitch Street, East Avenue, etc., just running across the railroad tracks there, and also the Norton Place parcel as well is still designated as Industrial 2. The legend here for each one of these cannabis operations is down at the bottom. You'll see NP means it's not permitted at all. P means it's permitted with a zoning permit. PL means it's permitted but has limitations attached to it. And SP means that it's allowed only by special permit. Basically, within the city, retail is only going to be allowed in what's called the Business 1 and Business 2 zones. And the easiest way to describe those is that those are Connecticut Avenue, Main Avenue, and Westport Avenue. So there won't be any allowed in the neighborhood areas or in the neighborhoods that have Industrial 1 or 2 in them for cannabis retailers. But within East Norwalk, there will be allowed to have cultivators, anyone who's involved with food and beverage manufacturing for things that are related to cannabis, micro cultivators, which are mini growers, but I think that can be up to 10,000 square feet. Packagers would be allowed, and transporter. I spoke with Steve Kleppen because I wasn't really sure what transporter is. It's basically, it's not vehicles that would be delivering from a cannabis retailer to a consumer, for example, something like, Grubhub or one of those services. These are transporters, according to the state statute, that would actually be transporting goods and materials in between cannabis operators within the city. But the city is going to treat this in the same way they do for commercial vehicle storage, and can be on parcels up to 20,000 square feet. So I'm going to do a little bit more research into this before this public hearing and try to get some more clarification on this as to exactly what this could mean for East Norwalk. If you want some more information on this, in the email that I sent on the weekend, I have the link to the planning and zoning site. When you go in and you click on pending applications, you'll see cannabis listed there and all of the information regarding this, these proposed zoning regulations you can find there. Okay, so then we come to a little bit near and dear to our heart here, which is the Seaview Avenue corridor, which basically runs from Fort Point Street and then winds around to First Street and to the Cove area, Cove Avenue area. Many of you who have been involved with city planning and with ENNA for some time know that when the city was designating transit-oriented development within the East Norwalk area, city staff, Steve Kleppen and his staff, had identified pockets within East Norwalk that weren't related to the train station, but that they felt would be kind of ripe for development that would enhance the area and bring more people into the area. And one of these that they identified was Seaview Avenue. At that time, what they were proposing is what they were calling a public promenade. And actually, let me go to the next slide and then I'll come back here for a second. Okay. This is one rendition that was in the transit-oriented development plan, where they were looking to take Seaview Avenue and really kind of accomplish some traffic calming measures to make this more activated with activities that would not just be for the community, but that would be something of a regional draw that would have people coming, presumably seasonal activities that would be expanded through the sidewalk areas with kiosks, different seating with activities, performing arts, etc. And so they were looking to what they were calling to be able to develop what they call a promenade for Seaview Avenue. And this was one rendition of it. There are now some other renditions of it that actually show more activities and some redesign of the road itself. And that's where this plan comes in. Following the TOD plan and the discussions on Seaside Avenue there, the city funded a study to look into Seaview Avenue becoming a road that would comply with the state program called Complete Streets. And really what that program does is it activates streets, it makes it safer for pedestrians and bikers, and would have, and in this case, they're looking to redesign the road so that it would, what they're saying is that these improvements would benefit the community, the local businesses there, and add to the local activities. And but also capture the unique feel of Seaview Avenue corridor. The reason why we're asking everyone to attend this meeting on Monday, December 12th, even though it's in person and it's across the bridge over in Sono, is because we want you to be able to see firsthand some of what they're actually proposing doing with Seaview Avenue in terms of the lanes, what they're doing with looking to propose at the end of East Avenue, where it actually breaks into 2 lanes going left and right. I think they're suggesting making that 1 lane and actually inserting a roundabout at that point, so that the traffic would actually go around a traffic circle. And then I know another thing they're proposing is possibly to put an always stop at First and Seaview Avenue, right at the corner where you come around the bend to Mr. Frosty's. And my understanding is that would be in addition to the always stop that you hit at First Street as well. So there are a number of significant changes that the city is advancing in redesigning Seaview Avenue. We really feel it's important, whether you live near there or not, that people be engaged in what this process is, in what could significantly change that road, and will not only impact the people who live directly there, but I think it will have a major impact on our community. And I'll leave it to folks to determine if they think some of those changes might be positive or neutral or not so positive. The meeting that they decided to have, we had no input into this. I'm sorry, but they've decided to not hold it actually in East Norwalk. They said that they had difficulty finding a meeting space here. So they decided to have it over at the Walkbridge Welcome Center, which is directly across from the Maritime Aquarium there on the corner of Marshall Street. And you can park in the Maritime Garage and walk over, and the parking will be validated or it's free at that time. And they'll be doing a presentation there. It is more of an open house like the transportation one, from 5 to 7. So we did get clarification that you don't have to arrive exactly at 5. You're not going to miss anything. It's going to be an open house through the evening where you can come anytime between 5 and 7, and they'll have materials there that they'll be walking people through. And I think the other thing, I'll wait to hear from you guys on this, but either now or after the 12th, but this may be as major a change in our community and in that area that if you'd like to, we can, as ENNA, we can invite the city staff and the consultant on this project to join us at either a regular monthly meeting or a special meeting and present this to us, just to the ENNA community, so that we have an opportunity to see all of their materials and to ask questions and interact with them. Okay, and I will try to post some more renditions of of what this is likely to end up looking like. I'm trying to get some more pictures of that now, and I'll send an email with them. This was just one little snippet from way back in the TOD, but I think that I'll be able to find some more that actually show long-term what the road could end up looking like. Okay, and then just quickly, I want to talk about Cemetery Street, and then we're going to open it up for the chat room and some questions and comments, and just be able to talk to everyone who's on here tonight. So the reason why we had this meeting tonight is because originally Cemetery Street was going to have basically a final public hearing as soon as this Thursday night, December 8th. And then that was changed because the applicant still doesn't have all of their materials, and some of the final information coming back from the State Department of Transportation hadn't been finalized yet. But then we were told that the December 8th meeting was requested by the chairman of Planning and Zoning to be moved to January 4th. And that was the last word that we have from Steve Kleppen. But I was told by the applicant's attorney yesterday and by some folks at the state of Connecticut that there hasn't been any definite scheduled public hearing at this point. My fear is that this public hearing can be as soon as January 4th, because even though it's the holidays, there could be a lot of things that are happening behind the scenes. And I think that we need to kind of progress as a group, assuming that it's the 4th. And if it gets pushed out to later in January or to February, that would kind of be, all the better for us. The issue here right now with Cemetery Street is that we don't think that the state of Connecticut is actually taking into account the impact on congestion and gridlock and traffic and the traffic pattern of what's going to happen at Cemetery Street, especially if they make that a one-lane road that basically, then veers off to, going to the beach or to coming back on the 136, and also having paid parking on the road, and all to be able to, from our point of view, it's all really to accommodate the Cemetery Street Mill Pond development there, and nothing really to do with improving the traffic. And in fact, it could impact the traffic negatively there. And one of the other things that we're waiting to hear from or working on right now is, in addition to trying to get all the information that we really need regarding this traffic plan of Cemetery Street, we haven't really seen any new materials being provided by the developer, Spinnaker, for Mill Pond Holdings. Nothing has come in that's been posted for quite some time on the city website. And we're afraid that the Planning and Zoning Commission is going to make a decision to approve this just based on those architectural renderings that we all saw, and with a whole lot of unanswered question on this plan. We also haven't seen anything updated regarding the Cemetery Street lane change and traffic. The last updates on those that are posted are way back from the middle of August. And so that information is lacking. The other thing that's lacking that we've just discovered, and I wanted to bring to your attention tonight, I can't share a whole lot of information about it because I'm really still working with folks on it, but apparently the consideration of the impact of this development on the Mill Pond, the only interaction that the applicant really has had with the state DEEP on this apparently only relates to one division of DEEP. And unbeknownst to me, there's a lot of divisions of the Department of Environment and Energy. And so far, the applicant is only interacting with and getting feedback from one division that has to do with water dependent uses. And that commentary was submitted back to the city and highlights a number of concerns with the density of this application. Their comments are posted on the city website, and I think I provided a link to them in the email, but you can get them going to the Planning and Zoning website and then clicking on the Cemetery Street application. But they've highlighted a number of concerns that they have, and they're advising the commission to very carefully review this for the impact, not only on what could be done there today in terms of public access to Mill Pond and any water dependent uses for the public there now, but they're requiring the commission to consider what could be done in the future that might not be able to be done should this high density two structures there be built. So that's at least one good thing. So we'll have to see how the commission reacts to that. The thing that I wanted to tell everyone tonight, though, is that division of DEEP doesn't have any purview over the rest of the things that we're concerned about, which are the environmental issues, the impact on the pond itself in terms of the wildlife there. We are starting to compile a list of all of the birds and the animals that are either seen there or habitat there, breed there, have migration patterns over there, so that we can start to look into this and interact with the DEEP from the environment point of view. Another interesting thing that we'll be looking at, and anybody who heard me today on the Lisa Wexler show by any chance would have heard me talking to her about this. She's very concerned about this topic as well, is that there's been a number of studies over the past few years regarding the impact of artificial lighting at night and what that does to the migration patterns of birds, because they mostly migrate after dark. And wherever there's artificial lighting or uplighting, it has a dramatic impact on their ability to migrate. And also, sometimes it causes them to actually kind of like fly towards the light and causes all kinds of problems. So there's been major push, I think, nationally to try to move away from all of the lights that are on at night, especially in cities, but also in suburban areas. And so far, we don't see anything with this application that's addressing any of these environmental issues. We do know from the folks who live there at the pond, and some of them may be on this meeting tonight, that back a bunch of years ago, when the state provided funding to dredge the Mill Pond and did some other improvement work there, that it literally took years for the habitat to actually return to the levels that were there before they did that work. And at least one person that I spoke to, an official with the state, agreed that this development at Mill Pond on that parcel is likely to have a similar effect, if not even worse, because it could be more of a long-term impact. So just want you to be aware of that. Be aware of the fact that there could be a public hearing in January. The attorney, again, told me that nothing had been actually scheduled yet, but he also didn't tell me, what other possible dates there are. So I would say we should just err on the side of caution, and for now, assume there could be something as soon as January 4th. If the city actually confirms that date, then I do think that we may need to meet as a community via Zoom again at our regular what would have been our regular December meeting, which is December 19th. And that's the reason why I had it in the email as the next meeting. So for right now, I'm leaving that as a potential meeting for our regular monthly meeting. If it doesn't seem like there'll be anything related to Cemetery Street or anything new that pops up over the holiday, because we always seem to get ambushed the last couple of weeks of the year. If there isn't anything really pressing, then we'll go ahead and cancel that December 19th meeting. But I am keeping it on there in the event that they're going to schedule a public hearing anytime in the first couple of weeks of January. We can unmute for folks who have their hands raised, and And Charles or whoever is co-hosting here, if there's stuff in chat, we can take a look at answering some questions or want to hear some comments from everybody who's on the call tonight.
There are comments in the chat. I don't know if you saw those.
Okay, so let's do some chat. Let me go back up. I have chat open, so I'll grab some of these. And anybody who's looking to raise your hand, again, click on either the raise hand icon, or you'll see a little smiley face that says reactions. It's either at the bottom or the top of your screen. And if you click on that, you can raise your hand. Okay, so we had a comment here about the corner there at Overton's and up to not Norm's there, right there where the in between where Frosty's is. The comment being it's off the rails and eager to see them add traffic calming and crosswalks. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. That's kind of I whenever I'm there, I'm personally always amazed at how people are flying around that corner. It's very dangerous. And I do think something has to be done about that. I'm hopeful that it's something that's not going to be kind of overkill. And also something that would impact the property owners there negatively, only to be a solution that can't be enforced anyway. And I'll just take an opportunity to say that for anybody who's a newcomer here on the ENNA meetings and interacting with us, we really kind of have a pet peeve about regulations and ordinances that go in that, seemingly are for the good of the community, but for all intent and purposes, they're really unenforceable. And it just really only aggravates people even more that, we don't even really enforce the bare minimum in terms of, traffic regulations within the city. And we certainly don't want to see the city put in any kind of traffic calming measures that would be an imposition on businesses and residents and end up being something that can't be enforced anyway. So it'll be interesting to see what the options are for that bend. So far, the only thing that I've seen is the one that's noted here, which would be the four-way stop there. And the raised crosswalks, but I'd be interested to see, what their recommendation is on that. Okay, and then 12-foot wide path with the promenade. Says it would be like a bike walk path. Promenade is very snazzy. The question on the promenade is really what would be, how that would be activated, would it be seasonal, and what impact it would have on the community itself. And part of the resistance to this the first time around is during the TOD planning, the kind of the objective of this was to be able to make this area a draw for people coming in regionally. So it wasn't something like where, the street would be activated a couple of weekends, out of the summer, and really would be more for the benefit of the neighborhood and the Norwalk community. It would presumably be something that would be looking to draw, thousands of people into the area. Won't Seaview work affect cemetery and more of a traffic flow? Yes, potentially. Yeah. And don't forget all of these things that we still have the Walk Bridge project going on, folks. So we have 6 to 7 years of major construction activity and infrastructure activity, starting from like Fort Point over where they're realigning the railroad bridge here to align with South Smith Street, and over to East Avenue Bridge, and kind of everywhere in between, and then Cemetery Street. So 6 to 7 years of kind of Armageddon here. So everything to one extent or another is going to kind of interact and impact things. And as the DOT is working through these projects, they are supposed to be coordinating so that all the peripheral projects that are going on with the city are coordinated timing wise to minimize the impact. Will the slide and recording from tonight, I guess you're asking, Nancy? Yes, so the if you're talking about our meeting, it will be available. I think that I forgot to post the PowerPoint from last month, but I will do both the 11/21 meeting and this meeting, and then the recordings get posted on YouTube. I think I don't want to speak for Charles, but I think that we're about to post the November meeting on YouTube.
Yes, November went up today.
Thank you so much for that. And then Nancy, if you were referring to someone else's meeting, just let me know and I'll find out on that. The city generally, when they record things, they generally post them.
We do have a couple hands raised.
Okay.
Okay, first, Judy.
All right, as usual. The Strawberry Hill Bridge has taken forever to be constructed, the construction there. I mean, it's been several years, many years. And today, there was another detour. And with all the other construction and on the roadways that they're talking about doing, I mean, it seems to me nobody's looking at the overall overarching fact that, traffic is going to be miserable for quite a long time. And all these projects can't go on at once. I mean, who is creating the echelon? Right? Also with the village district, I mean, East Norwalk could be a real mess for the next 10, 15 years. And do we know how much, the impact on taxes? Will that be equally borne by everybody in the city?
Okay, I'll take the bridge first. I think you were talking about Strawberry Hill Avenue Bridge, right, Judy?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that has been just like Yankee Doodle, unfortunately, years of delay due to a whole host of technical reasons I won't get into now. But that is long overdue. I wasn't aware that there was another detour that was put there.
This morning we had to go on a detour to get to Strawberry Hill.
Okay.
Coming down Norton, towards.
Okay. The in terms of who's kind of coordinating all of these things so that they're all the parties are speaking to one another. Most of the projects that are going on right now are controlled by the DOT, and they have and on their own website, the walkbridgect.com website, they have a map of all of the projects that are going on. And they are coordinating detours and timings of closings and things to take into account each one of those. So, for example, when they have a long-term closure under the railroad bridge on East Avenue, and they don't have closures and detours, either approaching it or over in the Strawberry Hill Avenue. Now, does that work 100% of the time? I would say maybe not. But for the most part, they are coordinating closures, detours, and construction amongst all the peripheral projects. Even going out as far as some of the projects they have that start in Norwalk and end up over in Westport as well. So they are trying to do that now. Having said that, when they hit delays and snags or weather concerns, or they start putting shovels in the ground and they find things that they didn't know about before, which is part of the delay on Strawberry Hill Bridge, by the way, then I think that they, what they do is try to do their best to, mitigate the impact on the community.
All right, I'm just, it's just thinking about the cumulative effect of all these things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if the village district gets going at the same time, I mean, we tried to avoid the exit 16 and, entrance onto 95 today. And we were going to go on at Westport, but traffic was like creeping. And all we had to do is get on and get off again to go to West Avenue, which is usually a piece of cake.
Right. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, Judy, this is, like I said, this is going to be the next 5, 7, perhaps longer. And this is what we're going to face. I think even when everything is done, it's going to be a fairly dramatically different community than what it's been, for the past 100 years. Um, a lot of that's going to have to do with what the final result of East Avenue is. There's a lot of improvements that are going to be made to East Avenue proper, in terms of widening sidewalks and, better pedestrian experience, and getting rid of the slalom course that we call it. Unfortunately, some of that's also going to not really lead to traffic calming. So we could have an increase in vehicles that have more of a straighter way, runway to drive. But more importantly, I think a lot of people who haven't been engaged from the beginning, and there could be people right now in this meeting tonight that are going to hear this for the first time, but essentially tractor trailers are going to be able to fit under the East Avenue Railroad Bridge at that point. So what started as a catenary line project for Metro North to do some improvements there, ended up being a lowering of the road in order to gain a 14-foot height there, which will allow, massive trucks to be going up and down East Avenue. We don't really know what the impact of that is going to be long term, but it's certainly something that we're not used to seeing now, given the traffic pattern where tractor trailers have to take a right onto Fort Point. And they're really only wanting to do that because they need to get to someplace in the area. But
yeah, and then they go around. They use cemetery actually to come around to get to this part of the neighborhood.
Right, exactly. And we think that because there's really no long-term solution to I-95 congestion going southbound in the morning, despite hundreds of millions of dollars, either already spent or about to be spent, that the path of least resistance, once East Avenue is done, is going to be for cars and trucks to get off at East Avenue and then go under the bridge and continue into South Norwalk, if that was part of the route that they were intending anyway. And not tractor trailers, but certainly cars going northbound would be enticed to continue to use East Norwalk as the path of least resistance to get to Westport. So, okay, any other, Judy?
Well, it won't be during my lifetime. I'm putting myself back on mute.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Okay, then do we have some more hands that are up?
yes, Roberta's hand is up.
Okay. Hey, Roberta.
Hey, Diane. This is a question that's actually not really related to things that you talked about tonight, but I just want to confirm, there's an issue on our street and I want to confirm that it's DPW that I should contact.
Okay.
We got these beautiful new sidewalks, hallelujah, after waiting 18 years and falling down. We were so happy. Then Eversource came by and ripped up the brand new sidewalks to deal with gas lines. And so they patched them with asphalt. So who should I talk to?
Well, actually, so two people, that's unfortunate when it happens. And there is supposed to be coordination so that when the city has done work or another contractor has done work, because it really was another contractor doing work, I think, who ended up doing the sidewalk.
I got it.
But they're supposed to coordinate in theory, but it doesn't always happen. So two things with that. It was probably Burns Construction.
Yes, it
who
was.
Actually did.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're the main contractor in East Norwalk for Eversource. So you can reach out to Burns. I have a contact for them. I can get that over to you. And so you can deal directly with them. But I hate to beat a dead horse, but I always tell people this. Anything that's related to anything like that, anything in the city that you're ever concerned with, it's really beneficial to log it into the city's customer service system.
Okay, yeah, I'll do a complaint. But just so you know, every time I log into that, they close it and they don't deal with it. And then I have to call the city hall and say, why did you close it? And then they give me some mishigash about why they closed it and why they're not doing anything and this, that, and the other thing. I have a disabled car that's been on my block for 3 weeks. And an officer came because someone knocked over our stop sign. And I said, can you guys just like run the plate and just, because I know it's disabled. The guy keeps trying to start it and it's just like sitting there. And he's like, well, there's nothing we can do about it. And I'm like, that's not true. It's up to the officer's discretion. I'm like, I'm not asking you to do anything horrible. Just call the dude and say, when are you going to get your car off the street?
Right.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, and it's still sitting there.
Yeah, it shouldn't be. I mean, things shouldn't be closed with no resolution. If it's
It
something
happens frequently.
Yeah,
I'll do it again. I'll do something, but I shouldn't bother contacting DPW. Just do a complaint and
no, you can.
and
I mean, I
contact
would go through
Burns.
customer service because it gets routed to them, and then you have a log of it. But you can
Okay,
also
cool.
write into transportation, mobility, and parking, which is Garrett Balella, and
Okay.
or put him on copy if you're actually emailing into customer service. It can't hurt. It can't hurt.
Can I copy him on what I write to Burns?
Yes. Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. What's his name again? Balella? B?
Yeah. B as in boy. Olella. First name Garrett.
I'm sorry. BOL.
ELLA.
Okay. Got it. Balella. Got it. I'll find
it'll
him.
be G as in Garrett. G Balella at norwalkct.org.
Thank you, Diane.
And I will
CC.
email you on Burns so you can get directly with the field supervisor.
Awesome. It's just a shame because, there's cracks on the cement already. So if they don't attend to it at some point, like it's just kind of dumb.
Yeah. And sometimes what they do is this time of year, what they'll do is they'll be doing, the later it gets in the season, they'll be doing patchwork. And then you go on to a punch list for the spring of 2023 where they come back and they're required to fix it to specifications.
Got it.
And sometimes they don't. So
yeah, I just wanted to quick say something. I did talk to Burns because they came to do our gas today.
Yeah.
Hook up our gas line. And I asked him too about the asphalt because last time we had to get them to put cement in. And he said they don't do that. They're just going to put the asphalt in. Yeah. And then the people that are going to come back are, he gave me a business card, actually. Omar Garden Center.
Omar's is doing it.
Yeah.
It's Eversource Restoration Company. And he said either they're going to come back or Eversource themselves we can call. But they're going to come back and do it. But,
let's not hold our breath because we know how that goes. But thank you. I really appreciate that.
You're
Nancy.
welcome. They did get back and do ours last time. They messed up our sidewalk and they did do it.
Okay, cool.
15 years ago, yeah.
I got
There's
my
good to know. Thanks, Nancy. Thanks,
welcome.
Roberta.
Thank you.
Okay, and I think I think that we have some Seaview. I'm never going to call someone out because I hate that myself, but there may be some Seaview Avenue folks on this call. If you are and you have any specific questions, or if you just want to link up or make sure that you're presumably you're on our email list if you're on this meeting, but sometimes people just share the link. So the best thing to do is to be on our email list so we can keep you up to date. But some of these things move fairly quickly. Yeah. So you can always, I think I have this on my slides at the end. You can always just email into East Norwalk, into our association, info@eastnorwalk.org.
Yeah. Thanks. Oh, yeah, we're Seaview Avenue folks.
We've got two houses here, my mom's and ours.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay, good. Hi, Nancy. Yeah. Okay.
My father-in-law, I don't know if you remember ways back when they wanted to put a golf course in the park.
Yes, the mini golf.
Right.
Yeah, my dad.
Father-in-law Art Santella was vehemently opposed to that.
Do you know, maybe you guys know, I may have mentioned, Art Santella is one of the original board members of the East Norwalk Neighborhood Association.
Yeah.
And it probably, if it wasn't for Art Santella, there would be a massive gaudy mini golf in Veterans Memorial Park today.
That was my dad.
Yes. Oh, my heart. I just, I don't have to tell you, he was a great guy, and he missed to this very day. So
thank you.
Yeah. Kudos and credit to him. And I think you or your mom or someone actually passed along a lot of his documents that he had related to historical stuff about Veterans Memorial Park. So we have those here somewhere in our archive, and just eternally grateful to Art. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Yeah. So one of the questions we have from Seaview is as you're looking at promenades and crosswalks, right? As I go in certain neighborhoods that people live next to, if they do a crosswalk, are they gonna have like a beeping sound like 24/7 for like a,
Yeah, good
crosswalk?
question. Yeah, that would be a great question for this open house, and I hope you guys are able to make it on the
Yeah.
12th. Yeah, I'm gonna shoot over there myself. I can't get there at 5, but I'll be there shortly. That's an excellent question, because those
Can't
things can
imagine.
be designed in a number of ways, and if it is this, flashing and the beeping,
Right.
there won't be any, I don't think those things can be controlled to day of time. Time of day, setting, so that would literally be all night, actually.
Oh,
That's a good
I would
question.
go out of my mind,
Yeah.
Yeah,
The way the
exactly.
picture's drawn, it's like there's a crosswalk basically across from our house, or
Right,
crossing from our house across the street.
right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep,
Okay.
interesting. Okay. And then I think there is Mr. Ross. Yeah, let me just see if can we unmute him?
Okay, hi, I'm Frank
Hi.
Ross. We live on Seaview Avenue also, but my question is getting back to Cemetery Avenue. And I was just wondering, did the developers have to go before the Conservation Commission at all?
Oops, sorry, I'm muted. For which
Okay.
avenue is that? Frank?
For Cemetery Street.
Oh, okay, yes. So, yes, he did have to go through conservation. If you go onto the city's planning and zoning website to pending applications, and you'll see 1 Cemetery Street, you will see the notation there for the Conservation Commission. But in our emails, I had sent out, this is a little bit bizarre. Conservation and inland wetlands are highly regulated by state statute. And Alexis Karakides, who's the enforcement officer for the city of Norwalk for wetlands and conservation, she was the only one who did a review of that application, because even though that parcel sits at the top of Mill Pond, there's only a very little sliver there that's considered an actual wetlands, because it's tidal wetlands. It's a little over my head with the science of this, but the way the state statutes designate wetlands, you would think that whole area at the top there would be protected. Because it was that one little sliver, and the way the developer presented the plans to avoid encroaching within, it was a certain number of feet. Deborah, don't ask me to recall it, but it's in the memo. What they did was they designed their application so they fell right outside the boundary, like by a foot, of what would then be more regulated than her review. Now, to answer your question, they had to submit through conservation and inland wetlands, but she determined it to be what's called a minor application with minor impact. And so she approved it, and it did not have to go before the commission. Had it gone before the full Conservation Commission, we likely could have requested a public hearing, but we weren't afforded that. So it's a little complicated. I'm like oversimplifying it a little bit. So yes, it went before Conservation Inland Wetlands, but only to the enforcement officer, which is Alexis Karakides. And she is entitled to make the ruling herself, and that's the ruling she made. And it's it's a little bit unfortunate. It's one of the reasons now why ENNA is going back and going to see where the DEEP now can intervene on our behalf for the environmental impact. But
Okay.
I think you guys are on the on our email list.
Yes.
So I can also send you over the blurb that we wrote up about how that conservation process worked. And so you can see a little bit more of it. And you can certainly, you're welcome to call Alexis at City Hall. And she's always great about getting back to folks and explaining things, taking it from the technical statute stuff that she's obliged to and explaining it in layman's terms about how she reached that decision.
Okay, thank you for your answer.
One more question. The Seaview Avenue plans, it just showed well, what you showed was just on the sidewalk area of the street there. Are they planning anything in the park, or is it just the sidewalk plan?
Just as far as I know right now, just the sidewalk area. I
Okay.
don't know what would be impacted for the park because of, presumably if you're looking to reduce cars as well and activate the road where you have more pedestrian activity and public activities on the road itself, and in that buffer zone, if they're looking to draw people regionally, people will need some place to park. And so I don't know what the relationship is going to be because the Veterans Memorial Park is under the responsibility of Recs and Parks, and the street itself is under, the purview of transportation, mobility, and parking. So I think that's why, very anxious for this, for this December 12th. I, really wish they would stop doing these things at the holiday time. It's just the worst time for people to be engaged. And to do it in a means, still this time of year where it's not hybrid and you have to go in person to a small, venue to be able to see things is going to be, cumbersome. But hopefully after that December 12th meeting over there at the Walk Bridge Center, they'll be able to provide us with some presentations and documents that we can share. We always ask for them ahead of time, but they're, reluctant to give them to us because they don't want people to kind of go through everything and, not understand what they're looking at. But, we'll get as much of it out to folks as we can. And they are going to be posting it on the city website as well. They finally just posted for the meeting itself on the planning site. And I'll give you those sites again too. So for things that are related to the planning things that you mostly hear ENNA talk about, city's planning site is called tomorrow.norwalkct.org. And then anything related to the Armageddon projects, which are all the walk bridge work for the next 7 years, that's the state website, which is walkbridgect.com.
Okay, thank you very much.
And then when you get confused with all that, just email us, info@eastnorwalk.org, and we'll help with that.
Okay,
So
thank you.
We're just at 8:00. We don't really have any other official meetings, so we can adjourn. But what I'd like to do is I can stay on, and for people that have other questions or comments or have their hands raised, I'm happy to stay on as long as people want. But I always say, don't feel badly if you want to drop off right now. You can drop off, or you can stay and listen to other people's comments and questions and suggestions.
Okay, I have a quick question, and I don't know if you have an answer for it, but with the Seaview project imminent at this point, is there any talk about increasing bus service down Seaview Avenue to kind of mitigate cars? This could also create traffic if there are a lot of people stuck behind a bus waiting to pick up people at the park.
That's a good question. And honestly, I don't know. And I don't recall actually reading anything in the stuff that they've published so far, but it would definitely be a good question for Monday night.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. And Roberta has her hand up again.
Okay.
Yeah, I just, again, about the Seaview thing, we're also, to the other Seaview Avenue people that are on the call, Charles, my husband, and our house isn't on Seaview, but it's like one house in. We're on Osborne, right off of that little turn that you do. Mm-hmm. And one of my biggest concerns, which is not what this next meeting is about, I don't think I think this next Seaview thing is about creating better walkability and basically crosswalks and bike lanes and all that other stuff. Mm-hmm. But the real issue is that this is to me, after reading the master plan and being involved in a lot of these meetings over the years, it's clear that they're going to activate that spark in a big way. That's the intention.
Mhm.
I mean, the intention is not to have it like it's bad enough when the Oyster Festival happens, but like I get it. It's the Seaport Association. I try to evacuate. I try to like not deal with it. But like I mean, is it going to be the Oyster Festival
Mhm.
like every weekend here? You know, I mean, that's
Yep.
what I'm really concerned about. And the whole idea of a promenade. Oh yeah, it sounds adorable. You know, I'm a former New Yorker. We've lived here. We've had the house for 20 years, but like, I don't want a promenade in my, I mean, what? I mean, maybe you guys do. Maybe that sounds like it's a good idea for you and more power to you, but it's going to attract all of these people and there's going to be vendors there. We already have a parking situation in the neighborhood.
Mhm.
You know, I don't, you know, it's just the whole plan of the master plan is to increase the density,
Mhm.
which they're clearly doing an awesome job of, and they're not even close to finishing that thing.
Mhm.
You know, this next meeting is just the prelude to like a much bigger thing. And I love the question about the beep, beep, beeps with the crosswalks, because like that'll make me nuts too.
Right.
But I think it's going to be worse than that. I think there's going to be bands there, you know, like every weekend or, you know, maybe even more than that. I mean, I really like the fact that there's like, you know, people can play soccer there,
Mhm.
you know, I mean,
Yeah, and I think it's a good point, Roberta, because I'll say that there's never been a clear understanding between the relationship of activating Veterans Memorial Park versus what this promenade idea was. When the promenade idea came, Steve Clifton and the consultants were clear that they were talking only about Seaview. And because everybody was saying, like, well, we already have a park there. Why wouldn't we just use the park for these kind of seasonal activities and keep everything well within the park? Why are we looking to move everything out onto a city street? So it does remain to be seen because there's a complete disconnect between what they're telling us in emails is the scope of this promenade versus what we're seeing in their documents when we read the actual documents. And so that's why I really think this meeting on Monday night is going to be really important to find out exactly what the scope is. You know, I want to remind folks, especially the Seaview Avenue folks, because back in 2012, you probably participated in the master planning for Veterans Memorial Park when they actually funded developing a whole master plan for the next 20 years of Veterans Memorial Park. And so they did that. The public participated. We thought we ended up with a good mix of passive and active recreation that would be respectful to the property owners, but still activate the park a little bit more in terms of community activities. And that would be for all different age groups, some more things with performing arts, but not not an oyster festival type thing. And so, and a lot of things with the visitor docks and everything having to do with the water dependent uses. Now, fast forward 10 years, we're 2022. And for all intent and purposes, that plan that you paid for as taxpayers has been sitting on the shelf collecting dust. And it's everything in there that the community asked for. And basically the only things that have been done are related to the docks and to the launch pad there and the parking area. There's been a couple of other minor things that they've done. We asked for a family style seasonal outdoor ice rink, and you might recall what happened with that idea. That turned into what we called the FEMA tent city over there with the essentially private ice rinks. So so I think it's a good point that you bring up, because I think the community at large and the immediate neighborhood there really needs to understand the relationship between what the city and the consultant is proposing for Seaview versus what recreation and parks and master planning is proposing for Veterans Memorial Park, because now they're spending another couple $100,000 on another park master plan for all of the parks. So it's just crazy the amount of money that they spend on these things, and then stuff that people want really don't get implemented. But It's a good point. And I know that there are people who, like Roberta just said, there's probably some people that, aren't going to mind having vendors and noise and activity every single, weekend in the summer, assuming this is a seasonal thing. And there are other people that live there that probably will be maybe the worst quality of life thing that can happen to you when you're trying to enjoy, it's the legal term quiet enjoyment, but it's also literally quiet
Yeah, literally
enjoyment
quiet
of your-
enjoyment.
yeah.
Absolutely. And it's already an issue with a whole lot of things around here. And it's just, I don't know, it's just clear to me that that's the intention. I mean, it's in the master plan. I mean, that's where they're headed.
Yeah.
And I know that at this point, it's obviously clear that there's not a whole lot we can do to change that. But, I mean, I'm not going to stop talking.
Yeah. No, and I think you don't. And I think, I think almost I expected Judy. I don't know if Judy's still on to say this, but we'll almost always point out that, and it's the reality of stuff, guys. And I hate being a Debbie Downer, but I like to be a realist. By the time the city gets to the point where they have these little public charrettes or workshops or open houses, 99% of what you see is a done deal. It's already been, decided beforehand. And so, the burden is on us then to try to end up trying to mitigate some of the things that are probably the most, the most negative in these, in what these proposals are. But also, we also want to make sure that we're positive in the point that we recognize that wherever we can make things safer for people walking, biking and driving, that's always a good thing. But we just need to be smart about how we do it. There's good ways to do it and not so good ways to do it. And no one's going to argue that corridor there should, could probably use a lot of safety improvements. So I think it's going to be a balance, and it remains to be seen on Monday night. If I can get anything, over to us from the city beforehand, I'll send out an email and get stuff, to people ahead of time. We like to get it ahead of time, not because we think we're special. Okay. We like to get the stuff ahead of time because it gives you an opportunity to read through, take a look at some illustrations, and come prepared to some of these meetings with some questions that you might already have. But hopefully with this 2-hour session that they have, there'll be enough time to review things and ask questions. And like I said, if there's feedback to ENNA from all of you folks in the community, we will certainly invite the city staff and the consultant to come and make a presentation just to us via Zoom. And that would be, I guess in January as well. Okay. Any other stuff East Norwalk? Any questions on anything? Any concerns? The Cemetery Street, transit-oriented development, the construction this week at I-95. I think everybody saw. I sent out another email that had some. They're realigning some parking spaces at the train station temporarily while they do some construction work there.
We didn't talk.
Stuff we can just send. Hi,
Yeah,
Brandon.
hi. We didn't talk much about the meeting tomorrow, and specifically what they're planning at the 5th Street and Gregory Boulevard intersection. We saw some. I think they circulated some initial drawings. They were contemplating turning that intersection into a proper roundabout, I believe, where it, today it doesn't function like a normal roundabout. The yield operation is, not what you would expect.
Right.
Have you heard anything about that? Like, what is your view?
Good question, because it was on. It kind of fell off the radar screen there, Brandon. It was a topic of discussion for a while, and then it was before the transportation, the traffic authority as well. And I think the last thing that I heard on it was that they had pulled the plans that they originally were moving forward with because there was some pushback from the immediate community there. And then it just kind of, I didn't see it pop up again. So I don't know if it's going to be on this month's traffic authority. meeting or not. That's on the 19th. So I don't have an update. I can certainly, you can either write into the transportation guys if you want to and get an update, or we can try to get an update and post it.
I think tomorrow night it's going to be like a key part of the master plan they're
Yeah,
unveiling.
it is the master plan. Yeah.
Yeah, but I wasn't sure if you had, because I know maybe a year or so ago they tried to turn it into a true roundabout, but because
Yeah.
of all the residents being used to the way it operates now, it actually created more problems.
Right. Yeah. And I wasn't sure if I hadn't just spent a lot of time looking into that one, but my initial reaction to it was that I thought that may be an example of a solution looking for a problem.
Hmm.
Because with all of these traffic things, we like to kind of deal in facts and data and real stats, not, perception. And so I wondered if those were one of the things where it might be overkill, trying to, accommodate a problem that may not exist or may just be, seasonal. But certainly if that's nothing that you're seeing tomorrow night in the Tuesday meeting over in the community room, it would be a good time to ask the folks there. I'm sure Mike Yosak and Jim Travers and all the transportation guys, the city staff will be on hand.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
And I'm going to be there as well, but I'm in and out at a couple of different meetings, so I'm going to stay as long as I can. But I think I'm pretty sure they said their presentation is at 7:00. And whatever presentation that they are making, we'll be sure to get a copy of that right afterwards, and then we'll post it too. Okay. I'm trying to think if there's anything else on the, the other thing that I wanted to talk about, for anybody who's still on here, and we can get some more information out. This was on my agenda just for people to be aware of the Norwalk Hospital public hearing on December 14th. If people were interested in that and you want some more information, just go ahead and email into us at info@eastnorwalk.org. If you want some more information about Norwalk Hospital's application to terminate their inpatient behavioral and mental health services and transfer those to Danbury Hospital. Pretty controversial application considering we are, I think, 45 minutes away from Danbury Hospital. So could be an impact on our community, and people are just starting to be aware of this now and to talk about what the impacts are. So I don't necessarily want to get into it tonight, but if you email me and you have an interest in it, we can put it on the agenda. Or I can give you more information before the December 14th public hearing that the state is holding. Okay, Charles, I haven't been watching chat. Are there any questions in chat or?
No questions, just some comments.
Okay.
I have a question. So just trying to catch up on all the news, right? Obviously, aside from Cemetery Street, are there any other known sort of monster developments going in? I see, like, for example, my wife says something called Binky's. It predates me, but was knocked down. And I see, like, piece of land. Looks like, no piece of land can go without some massive development.
There are so many developments in the domain, in the realm of developers right now. It's not even funny.
Yeah, if you look at something that's an actual application, so before a developer actually files an application, technically nothing exists, but they're working with planning and zoning staff in the background for months, sometimes years, before they actually file their application. I'm sorry, I missed what you said was the parcel that was knocked down. Where was this?
It's by the railroad tracks.
It was Binky's years ago, but there was a Mexican restaurant there more recently.
Just got knocked down within the last.
Isn't it the Van Zant Street, the back entrance to the Van Zant Street condominiums?
When you go to the yard waste, just before you go under the bridge
Yes. Oh, okay,
on
gotcha.
the left
Okay.
side. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so that is not residential development at that point. That's part of the
Oh.
Rock Bridge project.
Oh, that's
And
right.
we
That's
took
right.
that property. Yeah,
Mentioned
that's where they're gonna realign the railroad tracks. Yep.
You
And then
mentioned
the
that.
whole road actually moves over to, so instead of coming under the bridge and you're at that funky two-way stop there,
Mhm.
it's actually going to align with South Smith Street so the cars can go directly through. That's where they're knocking all of that stuff down.
Okay.
For East Norwalk, there's not anything necessarily in the works right now, but people should still have their radar up for Norton Place. I can tell you that right now, because Steve Kleppen and the Planning and Zoning Commission chair and the commissioners refused to zone that to protect us from any major industrial development there. And also, we made repeated requests to have a moratorium on special permits so that a massive warehouse operation or something else objectionable couldn't come in to that parcel. And they also refused to do that. So we think at this point it's imminent that there'll be an application coming for Norton again. And we just don't know what it is. In fact, we had a couple people of ENNA who asked if it was okay to reach out to the land use attorney themselves, just to see if they could interact with getting some feedback on what the property owner may think they want to do there. And I don't know if they've done that yet or not, but we haven't heard anything, and we just asked to, the second an application is about to be filed, we're hoping to know sooner rather than later, but that's certainly one. And then the only other thing I think too is that we haven't had an update on the Masonic Hall, right there at Cemetery and Gregory Street and Gregory Boulevard, because they were also rezoning for the property that they own next to them to have that, I think, to zone into C residential and be able to put a couple multifamily, I think 2-family houses there as well. But we haven't had an update on that in a long time, so I'll try to get an update on that parcel too. All right, folks. So again, if you need us offline, if we get off of here and you think of 5 things or one thing that you wanted to talk about, just email info@eastnorwalk.org. Also, just keep penciled in December 19th, just in case they spring on us the Mill Pond Cemetery Street Development public hearing. Other than that, we'll post that, we'll cancel that, and hope everybody has a nice holiday, and then we would see you in January. But we'll be in touch then with any other updates that we need. In fact, I just see one now regarding affordable housing, so we'll get that on the agenda for either December 19th or first meeting up in January. Okay, thanks everybody.